On page 2, added in 50 pounds, and that the container must be stored in a building or if stored in the open shall be behind the building, front setback, and not visible from the street. Mark just had an email from a customer or from a resident who wanted him to go out and cite one of his neighbors, which he can't do at this point in time. So this would require that they be stored in the backyard. And then time limitations. There's changes on 72307, which is basically 50 pounds. I think that's a Republic requirement. And the website, which has good information about rubbish collection. So that got added in here. And then what really started all of this was the time frame. He changed it from not putting it out until, I think it was 6 before?
Previously it was 6.
6. So he changed that to 4 o'clock because in the middle of winter, 6 o'clock, it's dark. And we have a lot of older people that would like to put their trash out in the daytime. And then that the trash containers can't stay out overnight after the day of collection. And changed it from a minor misdemeanor to a 3rd-degree misdemeanor. So, does anybody have a problem with these changes?
You're not so hot on the 4 o'clock. Can you maybe put summer hours or something then? Because, you know, you go down the streets on in the summer and, 4 o'clock, people already have the garbage out.
People are putting their garbage out at noon.
I
You're
mean,
working, I'm home, they're putting them out at noon.
See, I thought the 6 o'clock was, or even maybe we could do it like a sundown type of thing.
I think you gotta have a time in there.
Yeah, I don't think you can do.
But I don't think 4
I don't
o'clock's
think
too
you can
early,
do a
especially for the
time
older
or a
people.
sundown.
I mean, we have collection on 2 days to keep the city looking decent already, so the trucks aren't in the city every day.
I mean, it's not on the 4 o'clock.
I know, it bothers you. We had this discussion before.
What if you have somebody that's working second shift, running into a third shift? When do they put their garbage out?
7 o'clock in the morning before, they would put it
I
out.
work 16 hours a day.
Okay.
So how would I put my garbage out? When would I put my garbage
Well,
out?
right now, you're
Put
apparently
it out the night before.
the night before, 4 o'clock the night before you can put it out. Or right now, it's 6 o'clock the night before.
Right.
So,
So if I go to work at 3 o'clock, make my 4 o'clock, and I don't get home until 8 o'clock, or 10 o'clock in the morning, when do I put my garbage out?
Oh, so
Your
you're
wife
saying
puts
you
it
work
out?
at night?
I've worked. What would you say?
your wife puts it out?
How
I mean,
about
I
if
put
don't
mine
have
out
a-
half
How
the
about if I
time.
don't have a wife?
How do you get it on now?
I thought you were retired.
I am retired.
Oh, okay.
I'm
You
giving
said work
hypotheticals
16
for
hours.
people. I'm giving hypotheticals for people.
Okay. We're actually expanding on what is currently the ordinance. The ordinance is currently that you can't put it out until 6 o'clock the night before. So we're actually giving a couple extra hours. We're not shortening the time, we're expanding it.
Sounds like some people want it to shorten it though.
Now she wants to keep it the
Why
same
don't you
as
keep
it
it the same
is.
as the way it is now?
6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. Anybody on the committee have issues with any of this?
No. A lot of work's gone into this between you, me, and Mark.
Oh, mostly Mark. Anybody, besides Carol, does anybody else want a different time for when you can set it out?
That's fine. Yeah, I'll go with majority.
All right, do I have a motion to pass this out of committee?
Make a motion.
All in favor? All right, solar. I've got copies. Mark and I talked, we made some changes. Got a copy. Some of the changes, they're in bold on this. On page 2, we did some definition changes. In terms of roof-mounted, flush-mounted energy systems, describes an installation of, I can't pronounce that, photovoltaic, thank you. Panels and tiles which are installed flush to the roof and which cannot be angled or raised. Also, we added in, since we said that solar could be put on accessory structures, we added in the definition of accessory building, which is found elsewhere in the ordinances, so we mashed that up, and added a definition for a qualified solar installer.
A typo there. Equipment,
Where?
there's a 0
Oh.
equipment,
Okay.
installations, okay.
Hmm?
There's an S after installation, just kind of standing on its own there.
Then there seemed to be interest in allowing ground-mounted solar systems. Carol brought it up, and there seemed to be some other people that thought that supported that. I would support it, so we added that in on page 10, site standards and location. I think this is what we talked about, Mike. Are you okay with this?
Yeah. But we're still restricting it to the rear of the house.
Yes.
Yes.
I understand, but there isn't, if you give them ground mounted, then that allows them to maybe take advantage of that, of your south facing exposure.
Here's the problem. It's a question of aesthetics. And you could put an ugly looking array on the back of the house just as well, so that the person behind me, for example, would see that. Or I don't see where the person that is behind the house, it has less aesthetic sense than the person that's on the other side.
The
of
ground
street.
mounted must be screened from adjacent properties by either appropriate landscaping or fencing as approved in Chapter 997 of the Seven Hills Codified Ordinances. There was some extra copies. Do you want to hand one back? So it does need to be screened the way this is written. Has to be located at least 10 feet away from any lot line and can't be any taller than 6 foot tall. So if there was a fence or appropriate hedges, it would be covered. I understand what you're saying. I don't believe that it should be restricted from a front roof, but this is not a case of what I want. This is a case.
Why is it not a case of what you want? You're one of the councilmen.
I'm only one of the councilmen, and there was not the stomach to support that last June when we were talking about this. So this has been talked about for a year.
Effectively, you're prohibiting it, which doesn't affect me, because I have no intention of putting up a solar energy panel.
Well, my front faces north, so and my back is shaded by an oak tree. So we talked to people about it. We didn't have any place that we could have put it, and I'm not willing to give up my backyard to put a solar array. So while I would love to do this, the only place that we could would be on our shed, and that's not really big enough to do any good.
It's not cost effective.
Right.
To be really honest about it.
But
I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
I don't know either, and if at the future the technology changes to a point that this needs to be redone, then I think that'll be a good time to do that. I think this gives us a basic working model. This ordinance would have worked for the kids that put solar in. The one request that we've had for a solar ordinance or a solar installation, this ordinance would have covered what they wanted to do. It makes sure that the roof will support it, which is one of the issues that they had. It cut back on some of the auxiliary costs that were built in initially. So this is not a bad compromise if council is willing to support ground mounted solar arrays, and if we're not, we can take that back out. I'd like to get this through. So this has been going on for a year and a half.
The other thing is this didn't have a minimum that I remember, a minimum area, which means
20% of the backyard.
No, minimum area for solar cells.
50% of the roof. I'm not understanding.
There should have been a minimum, because effectively you really need to apply for a permit for a solar light that people have in their yards, and you'd have to put that on the roof. See that? It's a badly written. Normally they use like 100 to 200 square feet as a minimum. That covers most everything.
Mark,
See, you're even precluding solar powered vents, unless they're mounted on the back roof. It's a simple thing. It should have had. It's just a badly written ordinance. I don't care what anybody says, and it
I understand your point. Our building commissioner, who is going to be the one that is giving these permits out, and does not feel that it's written that he cannot manage it, and does not feel that we are precluding those kinds of people. So is there any discussion about whether there's a problem with ground mounted solar within committee?
No, thank you very much for including it, I appreciate it.
Is there a motion to move this?
I'll make a
And
motion.
actually, it's not in, I'm not sure it's in committee anymore. Is there a motion to put this back on the agenda?
Mark, it's on the agenda.
In the past year, how
No,
many,
it's been passed.
requests for permits have we got regarding it?
One.
For 2015?
No.
No, since we started talking about this year. One. So all this for one. And I'm not gonna charge people a permit to put solar lights in their garden.
Are you saying you don't think we need to put it on the books, or are you saying?
Curious.
I
yeah,
agree that there's
it's
only one.
definitely been a lot of spinning but it's one of those type of things that the planning committee was concerned because we didn't have anything on the books. And you know how that goes, just like we didn't have anything on the books for condos. You know, we got the condos on Rockside Road, you know, so I mean, without, you know, we need something on the books.
Well,
Wait, I got it.
I gave you a much better,
Okay, wait.
much simpler, less complicated ordinance than you have here, which was developed through the Department of Energy under Solar America program, which was started under, it goes back to George Bush, and they put a lot of effort into the concept of permitting, and I
I
don't
have
care.
it, and I actually used some of it in the changes.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea is that
They're-
we had the one
they're-
person in here before, and you don't know, this might open up if we have the more younger people we have, just better moving in here. It's a good thing to have on the books, it's
Yeah,
not gonna kill
there
anybody.
there also is no sense to the levels. It should apply to realistic zoning. You have 100 kilowatts. Do you know what size 100 kilowatt?
But we've talked about this, they're not saying that it's going to be that big, it's saying that it can be up to that big, because we did not differentiate between commercial and residential. So we did make some changes based on your suggestions, and I do appreciate your suggestions.
Well, you should have tied it to zoning, and realistically, a 15 kilowatt limit would have made sense.
I understand.
100 kilowatt requires a solar cell area of 6,000 square feet, minimum.
Sir, I'm putting this back on the agenda.
I agree.
Okay.
I had some comments on the windmill part of it too, but that make no sense at all.
Because this is going back on, and the next thing that I have is adding fees for alternative energy systems, adding a fee B35, residential alternative energy system, $150, and B67, which would be commercial alternative energy system, $300. Is everybody on the committee okay with these? Make a motion to move this out of committee. All in favor? Okay. Carol brought, making, doing an ordinance to have no smoking around the building, in the building and around the building, because the higher revised code as it stands is not enforceable by our police. It is enforceable by the health the Ohio Health Organization. So the question is, do we want an ordinance to designate non-smoking areas like at the front door that could actually be enforceable by the police? And where do we want to set those non-smoking areas up? Do we want to only allow smoking at the indoors? What's the thought of council? City of Brecksville did a little, they didn't actually do an ordinance, but they have a little paper that it's mostly for the employees, not so much for residents. So do we want to do something for the employees, or are we looking for? Right, so.
It's a public building,
Yeah.
which,
So what, this is not a big deal for me. I will follow council. I grew up with smoking parents, so secondhand smoke, I've lived with that for most of my life.
What's the RCC?
Well, it's got all the rules, but we can't, I mean, I've
Well, we
got,
could mirror this.
well, but we've got to set it up. You know, you can say that there's a designated smoking area outside of the building, but beyond that, you have to be 50 feet away from the entryway. Do we want to actually put an ordinance on the books like this?
Sure.
Jim?
I don't smoke, so I don't have an issue. Well, I mean,
what prompted this was when we were having the town hall meetings, a couple of the elderly ladies were walking into the building, and they had to walk past a bunch of smokers that were standing out front, and they came in and they were like, and that's, we shouldn't have to be, people shouldn't have to be walking through smoking. This is a public building, and they should be able to walk in without having to have that in their face.
So what we're going to do is say that you can't smoke within 50 feet of the entrance. So if they park 75 feet away and the person next to them
I kind of
gets out of
used
there.
50 foot as just a
Just
number.
hear me out. So the person, they park 70 feet away, and then the person that's parked right next to them is smoking, and they come in and they go, oh.
Okay.
No, because they're
See what
smoking
I-
in their car.
No, they can
Okay,
stand
no.
outside their car. There could be 3
Yeah,
people, there
they can
could
stand
be 10
outside their
people.
car, but they don't have to walk through it.
They would have to walk through it. You just can't get around it. You can't get away from it.
Well, then we can just ban totally on the city hall property altogether then,
Do
if you
that.
wanna do that.
Go ahead.
One of the other problems with smoking in the front door is that, you know, you end up with cigarette butts all over the place. I've seen that in so many different.
But cigarette butts 70 feet away.
I know.
They're gonna, you know,
But it's not-
like, how hard is it to go like
Yeah,
that?
I know, Tim, but it's not right there at the entryway, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it is a little bit about nothing here, but I
Tom,
just.
then, and the next thing you'll be complaining about is
I'm not
they're
complaining.
doing that to make it 50 feet away.
I'm not complaining, I'm just bringing up, I've seen it, and you've seen it in office buildings too.
You know, sometimes you just, you know, you can over-legislate.
True.
Well, I'll tell you right now, at work, where I work, it's a hospital, you cannot smoke anywhere on those grounds or surrounding park, or surrounding
I'm surprised you
area.
can smoke being an employee.
Well, Cleveland Clinic, totally, made their people, but
University
Metro,
hospitals do the same
Metro
thing.
people, if they wanna smoke on their break, they have to drive off the property. This is
I don't know, how onerous do you want to be? That's all.
Well, if you're saying that the 50 feet's not gonna be good, then maybe that's what we need to do then. I mean,
Have a dog in
Just
this
designate an area on this side of the building, that's all. Because public don't come in this side of the building. And I know we got employees to smoke, but probably you could go out that way.
And they did that at Brecksville. They designated certain areas at each city building that you could smoke. I'm not sure, Rich and I talked about this. It's not something that I personally think that we need the police enforcing, but depending on the feel of council, I can support either thing. I think if we're going to set it up, we set up that, you know, you have smoking like down at this end and something down at the other end for the police that smoke, not at the main entrance or back here, and there's a back entrance over there.
Well, you would just say, you know, the public entrances. These are locked, they're not public entrances. You do that, you know, so they're not by that back door or by the front door or within a certain distance of the doors if you wish. But the health department, the woman that, the women that take care of this area, the Seven Hills, said that if she's not here to see it, she has to be here to see it and tell them to stop. So if you want something that's, you know, more workable, then we have to do an ordinance for the city that the police could enforce. Because they're, you know, the Ohio Revised Code is a little weak. And it's a little vague because it says immediate vicinity of the doors, and then, you know, what's the immediate vicinity, so.
So I'm gonna do a straw poll here and see who wants to support something
I
like
think
this, 'cause
the
I don't,
objective
like I
here
said, I
is
don't care.
to keep people from walking through a group of smokers.
Okay,
That could congregate.
I agree with that.
And I'd be for limiting to secondary entrances or 2 feet away. You know, you got the lone guy in your parking lot, you'll have that anyway. But a group. of
50 is probably
smokers-
pushing it. It's
a group of
probably
smokers at the
15 to
entrance.
20 is probably a
When
good
you
number
walk
to
into
get them away
Walmart,
from the
you
What
door.
are you looking at me for?
I'm just, you brought up the example of the parking lot.
Talk to the rest of the people. Sorry, I shouldn't wave my arms. That's not a good thing to do.
When you walk into a Walmart or some store, you don't have a group of smokers right outside the door. Or in the main entrance. And I think that's what we're looking to do.
I'm all for designating a certain area. But not the front.
Okay.
Yeah, let the side doors be for the employees and the public entrances, 20 feet, whatever number you want to put on it, you know. People shouldn't be hanging out smoking cigarettes, making a cloud in a public entrance to a public.
The court day, the days of the court is another time where they do stand in the front there. So those people are subject to walking through the cloud of smoke also. That's
Okay.
a couple of big times, you know, when a court day and some meeting nights and stuff like that. That's when you see it. It's not usually during the day.
In which case, then we'd need the designated area for them.
It's just far enough away so that somebody
It
could walk by.
disperses,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
I don't know. So
for the employees, it would be a designated entrance, one or the other. And I think then the signs need to say that you can't smoke within, and we'll have to measure and figure out whether a good number is to get them away from the door. 50 is way too much, I realize that, but it sounded like a good number.
Well, you know, when the ordinance for law first passed, the health department was enforcing it at 30 feet. But that's gone away. Now they're just enforcing the strict immediate vicinity, which, again, it depends which guy comes out with the immediate vicinity.
Okay.
How many feet is it till the parking lot starts?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a sign out there that says no smoking beyond this point or something on the canopy out front.
20 feet.
Okay. I'll put something together for the next week's meeting.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Why don't you just measure the distance from the door to this existing sign, and that's your limit? You've already got the sign there. That says exactly that.
Well, I think
People
the
still have to walk
sign,
through it to do that. That's the protocol.
yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
the
that's
sign
still-
doesn't get them back far enough, actually. Because everybody congregates right there and you've got a number of smokers.
Yeah, this is amazing. Let's just pick a designated area and move on.
Okay.
I can't figure out how people could deal with it when we used to smoke in meetings at City Hall and their ashtrays across the table in City Hall.
Well, like I
That's
said,
just
Times have
baffles
changed.
me.
Or
Let's pick a
airplanes, or
designated
anything,
airplanes. Let's pick a designated
How
area.
much
and
nicer
move
it
on.
is now not to
Wasting our
fly in
time.
an airplane full of smoke.
Then the designated area should be that shed thingy, whatever it is across.
That's a gas house, so I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't think that's a good
That'd be
idea.
the ultimate
I
smoke.
don't know if we really want them smoking there.
I
I
would,
would match smoke there.
We actually had a leak there last year.
Yeah.
yeah, I remember.
Make it your 50 feet from the entrance and designate a smoking area for employees and be done with this.
All right, I will put something together, written up for next meeting. Well, I don't care either, Matt. Like I said, I grew up with smokers, so walking through a cloud of smoke is not something
If it
that
bothers
bothers me.
people, don't let them do it in the front entrance.
Right.
If employees want to smoke, let them go outside in the side entrances. Done. It's not hard.
All right, does anybody else have anything for rules? I make a motion to adjourn at 7:09. Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At the last meeting, I know Michelle asked Rick Johnson to come up with some kind of schedule for certain millage and what it will cost for a property levy. We have a pretty big, so. A 4 mill levy would raise 1.2 million. $150,000 house would be $183 a year, $15 a month. 3 mill levy, what we tried with the police, again, that's $940,000. $150,000 home would be $138 a year, $11.50 a month. So this could be a long conversation, or it could be a short conversation. And we got 7 people that will support the property levy.
Yeah.
It's a short conversation. Even though we need money, you're opposed to it.
Correct.
What you're
I'm
saying.
not supporting property tax.
Okay.
So let's just move on.
And you will only support raising income tax.
Correct.
So,
I'm opposed. I mean, I'm not gonna go into this and, without everybody holding hands and supporting the levy. I think I'm not gonna waste my time and resources trying to pass a levy, if everybody's not behind it.
so we're going to allow Matt to continue to say that this council isn't doing anything?
No, we wanna do something, you know, say to do it my way or we don't do it. Because
Go for it, do it, put it on the ballot, see
No,
what happens.
because it'll be useless. You'll work against it, and you'll say we're deceiving everybody like you did last
We
time.
did last time, but. if
Well, no,
you're
we did not.
doing
No, we
it
did not.
some-
Let's not get
You're
into
talking
that.
about doing it a different way this time, so.
I just feel that it's hard enough to pass a levy, and I think all the elected officials would have to be behind it. That's my personal feeling.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I mean,
That's fine.
I think we've got a much better chance of passing it, but I think it's wrong to allow one council person or maybe two council people to hold us hostage.
Well, again,
We need the money and
I take offense to you saying holding us hostage. I think there's better ways to do it. So I appreciate if you correct your language with that.
the only thing that you will support is raising the income tax to 2.5%. And I understand that you think that's a better way to do it.
At one point in time, we were talking about the police levy, you said you would support an operating levy. What has changed? You said you couldn't support a police levy because of the way it was structured, but you could support an operating levy. What has changed?
I think that since the police levy, a lot of our residents have lost trust in City Hall. And I don't think there's a prayer that it would pass. I think we're wasting our time with it. I think there are other and better options.
But they would trust us if we did a 2.5% income tax increase.
See, Michelle, you are twisting the story. I'm not supporting a 2.5% increase. We're also proposing that we adjust the credit limit too. Big difference between just income tax
We all
rate
know the reason
increase.
for that, man.
Well, Michelle, I'm trying to clarify.
Okay, but we all
correct
know
what
the
Michelle
reason you
is
want to
saying.
adjust the credit. We know the reason.
Well,
Well, Michelle,
no,
you
we
gotta
are
acknowledge that.
doing a 2.5% or a 0.5% increase so that the businesses that are in Seven Hills and the employees that work for those businesses and the employees who work in, the residents who live in Seven Hills and work in Seven Hills, all of those people will pay a 0.5% increase.
Well, when you talk about my proposal, tell the whole story, not just half.
Okay,
You know,
so
by
the-
adjusting the credit limit, that's a big difference in just saying we're going to increase the tax rate from 2 to 2.5.
so they will trust us. They will trust us for that, but they would not trust us for a property
It
increase.
would benefit,
There's more not to
a
trust.
large
which is-
majority of our residents.
There's more not to trust with yours, Matt, because another council could come back immediately after if it does passes and change the credit back. The council could do it legislatively, just so you know.
The next council.
So,
Well, maybe the next council will change it. That's structure.
Where does the city of Seven Hills rate with
so this is my meeting. It'll be open for discussion for the residents after. Anybody else have anything? We have legal services for Richard Pignatello, $9,760 for 1/1/15 through 5/31/15.
Motion.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And everything's very well detailed with all of them. Pat DeCiro, $2,156.25. For the month of May.
Motion.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
And for Christine Tobin, 2120 for period 325 through 529. Motion?
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
And we have what Jeff talked about, add $10,000.
Motion.
Second.
Aye.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. We're going to have another discussion with all the residents where you can give your opinion. But this is a committee meeting. So we will have a session when all the residents could talk.
Are we gonna require 2 consent agendas?
Pardon?
Are we gonna require 2 consent agendas? And that's still not going?
Well, I don't know. We vote on Christine, we vote, we got Rich.
And the only thing I'm not voting on is Squire is related to.
Okay, so you vote on Rich's. Anything else from the committee? Okay, motion adjourned.
I just
Yes, I'm sorry.
The
tax question, you're close to out of time to make a decision. So I don't know if we're done
We're at an
discussing that.
impasse.
Because we have to do 2 resolutions, and in between the 2 resolutions, we send it down to the county for the exact computation. And all that has to be done by August 5th. So,
Your thoughts? Your thoughts on this?
On that? I don't know, I'd sure like to see everybody come together on something.
Well, that's obviously not going to
You
happen.
know, if we can't come together on something, then people are gonna work against it, and it's just another cluster.
Tim?
I don't think it'll pass. I think we're wasting our time.
Yeah, I kind of agree it ain't gonna pass. It's not gonna pass. Not unless everybody holds hands and supports it. It's not gonna pass. Especially if you got somebody working against it. Whether it's me, you, Jeff, or
I
anybody.
don't think there's an appetite in this city for the property tax increase. Doesn't matter how attractive, how good, how whatever. People don't believe or feel that we need a tax increase. It won't pass. It won't pass.
How do you stand on the income tax check?
It's just to add the fee to the.
We're not talking about the income tax.
It's just
Well,
to add the fee to the.
I'm asking.
Personally, I think the income tax is a better way to go, but.
That's flipped, because you didn't think that way before.
Well, that was because I saw how much in flames the police levy went down. I mean, it's not gonna pass.
Well, there were some extenuating circumstances with that.